Okay, so picture this. It's 1959. 9 of the most experienced hikers you can imagine head deep into Russia's Ural Mountains. But they don't just die up there, on a peak the locals ominously call the Mountain of the Dead. No, they fled. Something made them abandon everything and run for their lives into a frozen hell. And for more than 60 years, the mountains have kept their secret. This is the Dyatlov Pass incident. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. This single, horrifying image is really the heart of the whole mystery. It's an act of pure, absolute desperation, a panic so intense it made them defy every single survival instinct they had. It's the one question that has haunted everyone from the very beginning. What on earth could have made them do that? So to even begin to understand this mystery, we have to start where the original search party did, with the absolutely horrifying scene they stumbled upon on that desolate mountainside back in late February of 1959. What the searchers found just made no sense at all. There's this perfectly good shelter, just abandoned. But not just abandoned, it was violently torn open, slashed with a knife from the inside, and all their stuff, their heavy winter coats, their boots, their gear, all of it was just left behind. And leading away from their only chance of survival was this trail of footprints in the snow, a trail showing them running away from the tent. And this is where the scene goes from baffling to just completely insane. The temperature out there was minus 30 Celsius, that's minus 22 Fahrenheit, in the middle of a raging blizzard. And yet, these hikers fled into this lethal environment with almost nothing on. Some of them were found in just their underwear, barefoot. It's an act that is so far beyond reason, it's hard to even comprehend. Now, to really grasp just how strange this is, you have to understand who these people were. This was not a group of amateur adventurers who got in over their heads. These folks were the best of the best. The group, led by the brilliant Igor Dyatlov, was made up of highly skilled, certified mountaineers. This expedition, this was their final exam, their big test to earn the country's highest honor, a Grade 3 certification. These are not people who would panic easily or make rookie mistakes. And that expertise, that's what makes what happened to them so deeply, deeply unsettling. And in just a heartbreaking twist of fate, one member, Yuri Yudin, had to turn back early because he got sick. It was a decision that, tragically, saved his life. So if you look at their journals, everything was going according to plan. It was a standard, well-planned expedition. They were making good time. They set up a supply stash for their return trip, and they just kept pushing on. But then, on February 1st, a blinding snowstorm blew in and knocked them way off course. And for reasons we will probably never know, they made the fateful decision to set up camp on the exposed, windswept slope of a mountain the local Mansi people called Kolitsyakal, which translates to the Mountain of the Dead. But it's the evidence they eventually found on the bodies that really transforms this case from a tragic accident into one of the most profound and disturbing mysteries of the entire 20th century. Okay, so the first 5 bodies they found, including Igor Dyatlov's, had all died of hypothermia. You know, tragic, but given the circumstances, it makes sense. But the last 4 hikers, they were found months later, buried in a snow den, and they told a completely different story. They had suffered these catastrophic internal injuries. We're talking fractured skulls and completely crushed chests. And then there's this really bizarre and gruesome detail. Ludmila Dubinina was found missing her tongue. This is the part that just breaks your brain. The medical examiner actually stated that the force required to cause these kinds of injuries was like getting hit by a car at high speed. But, and here's the impossible part, there were no external wounds. No bruises, no cuts, no soft tissue damage at all. It was as if they had been crushed by some kind of immense, invisible force. And the strangeness just kept piling up. Investigators found absolutely no footprints other than the hikers, which ruled out an attack. Then they found traces of radioactivity on some of their clothes. And just when it couldn't get any weirder, the Soviet government suddenly shut down the entire investigation, sealed all the files, and came out with this one cryptic conclusion, that the hikers had been killed by an unknown compelling force. For decades, that bizarre conclusion fueled all sorts of speculation. But pretty recently, in 2021, a team of Swiss researchers used modern tech to take another look at the case, and they came up with a really powerful scientific explanation. The key to their theory is this. It wasn't a huge classic avalanche that would have buried everything in sight. No,
They argue it was a much rarer, much more insidious kind of event called a slab avalanche.
So here's how it could have happened. First, the hikers, without knowing it, set their own trap by cutting into the slope to make a flat spot for their tent. That weakened the snow above them. Then, these really powerful winds just kept piling heavy snow onto that unstable ledge for hours and hours while they slept. And then, finally, deep in the night, the whole thing fractured and slid down, not burying them in a wave, but slamming down on top of their tent like a block of concrete.
And that right there, that could be the answer to the car crash injuries without any external wounds. The hikers were probably sleeping right on top of their hard wooden skis, which basically acted like an anvil. When that incredibly dense slab of snow hit them, it snapped their bones and crushed their chests against that unyielding surface right below them. In the dark and the chaos, they would have cut their way out and fled, some of them already mortally wounded.
It's a really compelling theory, isn't it? It's elegant, it's backed by science, but does it solve everything? Well, the answer, just like the incident itself, is complicated. You see, even this really strong scientific model leaves some nagging questions. That radioactivity on their clothes is still a huge point of debate. And while, yeah, scavengers could maybe explain the missing tongue, it's still such a gruesome and specific detail. And maybe the biggest question for a lot of people is, why would seasoned hikers run straight down the path of a potential avalanche instead of sideways to safety? It just seems like a critical error they wouldn't make.
It's these lingering questions, this lack of a perfect all-in-one answer, that's exactly why this case has stuck around for so long. Over the last 60-some years, more than 75 distinct theories have been proposed to explain what happened that night.
And these theories range from the totally plausible, secret Soviet military weapons tests, all the way to the paranormal, involving everything from Yetis to UFOs and beyond. Every single one is an attempt to piece together those impossible clues that were left behind in the snow.
So while science has probably given us the most likely answer, the full story of those final terrifying hours, well, it may have died with the 9 hikers. The Dyatlov Pass incident remains this chilling testament to the power of nature, the fragility of our lives, and, of course, the enduring, captivating power of a truly great mystery.